Hi, my name is Karen Robinson, and thank you for attending my presentation, Identifying Effective Human Resource Practices to Drive Environmental Sustainability Inside of Organizations. This presentation will walk through a proposal for future research, including why it's an important topic and what the proposal design would look like. The agenda for my presentation today is to go through the background of the problem, the specific role human resources can play in sustainable business practices, and walk through the potential study design as well as the expected potential outcomes, both from a theoretical perspective and from an application perspective. In 2015, the United Nations put forth a set of Sustainable Development Goals. These goals addressed 17 areas to address a wide range of human challenges, from poverty to equal access to education, gender equality, and climate change. These were a set of aggressive goals that require a deep set of partnerships through government organizations, NGOs, and corporations around the globe. To underscore this point, the UN has stated that new era of partnership is required to really drive sustainable development on a global level. This is why the partnerships with corporations is particularly important in addressing the agenda of climate change. To talk a bit more about the background of the problem, climate change presents a significant set of challenges to organizations, from increasing pressure to reduce carbon emissions to responding to increasingly destructive natural disasters happening around the globe that threaten to disrupt business operations. There is a growing expectations for organizations to be environmentally sustainable. This pressure comes not only from industry practices, government organizations, and legislation, but also from consumers, as they expect organizations to play an increasing role in supporting their communities. Increasingly, this requires organizations to take a multidisciplinary approach to environmental stewardship, in which all functions within the organization need to play a role for an organization to achieve their sustainability goals. While human resource functions can play a critical role in supporting the environmental sustainability strategies within an organization, and there have been many models that propose how HR can play a role in supporting environmental sustainability goals and broader social responsibility goals, there continues to be a lack of substantive research to really assess the impact and effectiveness of different areas of HR's potential impact on social responsibility goals and environmental sustainability. Specifically, the potential role and effectiveness of HR departments in helping meet the UN Sustainable Development Goals related to sustainable development and environmental stewardship has yet to be effectively understood, despite for the stated need of collaboration in order to achieve these targets. Further, the role human resources can play in sustainable development goals has been poorly researched by looking at specific individual industries such as manufacturing, education, and so forth. So despite being the human resources function to drive organizational motivation, supporting the structure and design of organizational organizations and in order to drive performance, and generally being responsible for promoting pro-social behaviors, the focus of driving environmental strategies is often overlooked. And due to the role HR plays in these areas, like organizational structure and job design and hiring, the function is naturally suited to be able to influence the infusion of sustainable business practices into organizations. These challenges that I've outlined above has led to the emergence of a field specifically dedicated to green human resource management, or GHRM. So moving on to discuss the role of human resources in sustainable business practices. So human resources can influence key outcomes in organizations on different strategic levels, including things like employee commitment, motivation, and performance. These areas have been well documented in the research. Current application of green human resource management is often limited to specific areas such as hiring, training, and reward programs, though the application seems to be much broader. Similarly, many studies focus on certain functions, like the recruitment of supply chain management personnel, or to specific geographic areas. So broader frameworks and models and research are really needed to help multinational organizations to really understand the comprehensive role human resources can play in helping organizations reach sustainability goals and really develop their own internal HR teams in order to achieve these goals. GHRM can also play a role in influencing the CEO and leadership ethics and overall environmental performance, and can be enabled or can be leveraged as a key enabler for driving green human resource behaviors amongst employees. This slide shows a potential framework for driving GHRM within an organization, from outlining specific HR management practices, from talent acquisition, training, recognition, but also the role of employee involvement and disciplinary practices within an organization. It also outlines specific green behaviors that HR departments can help drive within organizations, from things like recycling of paper or limiting resource consumption to things like carpooling and other energy reduction efforts. These all naturally play into organizational sustainability goals, while also touching on areas of social responsibility and social sustainability, including the health and wellness of employees and the well-being of the broader community involved. While also underscoring this particular framework are those contextual factors that HR is naturally suited to be influenced with. Things like political factors, government regulations, and labor unions are all key areas that HR is attuned to play in. And while there are certain situations, barriers to implementation, these areas of this model need to be further tested. So this is a framework that has been put out in the literature, but again, requires additional investigation and testing. So the proposed study design and potential outcomes that I am looking at is an initial qualitative study to understand some of the challenges HR professionals face in incorporating these sustainable business practices in their organizations, as well as identify potential effective practices that would result in future quantitative research. So again, the research design of this study will be qualitative and really structured as an exploratory design with data collected by interviewing human resource leaders in multinational organizations. The focus of these interviews will to identify current and potential sustainability practices that could be led from the HR function, exploration of the impact of these practices have on performance, whether employee or organizational outcomes, and challenges and barriers experienced by these leaders in implementing green human resource practices. In terms of outcomes, the identification of future areas of research, including quantitative assessment of the effectiveness of various HR practices. Again, identifying initial themes based on the framework discussed earlier in the presentation that warrant early and new quantitative assessment to look at their effectiveness. To increase the awareness of the role HR can play in sustainable development goals within organizations. And finally, to highlight potential best practices or areas of impact by organizations already engaging in green HR. There are a number of references that I've used to present today, so I'd like to present those to you. And thank you so much for your attention today, and I'm happy to answer any questions.